Hey everybody, this is Wayne Aston with Black Oak Development Group and Sage Creek at Moab. And I'm a real estate developer. I live in Draper, Utah, and just here to tell a little bit about myself, some of my background. I'm super nervous on camera, so don't mind me being jittery. I'm just here to share some insights about my journey as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years now. I turned 45 this year. It's been an exciting ride, an extremely tough journey as well. And so, here to share some insights on being an entrepreneur, some insights that might apply to being real estate, professional, whether it's a real estate agent or developer or designer. Anyways, I grew up in Las Vegas. I like to play football. I was very proud to serve in the Marine Corps for many years as a machine gunner. Also had an opportunity to serve in the Army National Guard in Utah in the field artillery. So I have a wide range of military background that served me quite well from the perspective of how to look at things, actually having perspective, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. I'm the proud father of five, and that's probably my number one most prideful accomplishment is having five wonderful kids that I just love and adore. And biggest opportunity in my life is being a dad. Uh, being an entrepreneur is something I think I kind of just stumbled into, if I'm honest. I don't think I can remember growing up and thinking I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I can remember thinking I want to be an architect almost my whole life. So I've always had a passion for art and design and construction. And I've loved seeing buildings get built, skyscrapers, get built. Um, and so I started my entrepreneurial career as a college student. I was attending the University of Utah. Um, I was majoring in architecture. And 5 years into college, I decided that this wasn't going to work for me, and I had started my own business. I was a stone and tile contractor, and I was making pretty good money, and I had 2 dozen guys working for me at the time, and we were doing some really fancy stuff, but my back and my knees were really paying the price. And I'd leave in the morning before my kids were up, and I'd get home at night after they were in bed. And I feel like I missed out on a lot of time with my kids. But that's my first early years as an entrepreneur. And so, there's a distinction here. A lot of people talk about or dream about owning their own business and being their own boss. And if most of us knew what that required to be successful in that, I think a lot of people will probably turn around and go the other way. It's very easy to be a slave to your business if you don't have good time management. So I'm going to just dive into the bullet points that I've kind of thought on. As Dallin invited me to come and share, I've been thinking on this for several days. What would be some of the most valuable things that I could share? And the first one is one of my driving principles, and that is perspective determines behavior, or perspective determines action. And it's been important for me in my life in dealing with people. Being a real estate developer is highly political, and it's a highly geared in crisis management and people management. And there's a lot of conflict in business and real estate. And if I'm able to maintain this idea and this knowing that everyone's coming from a different perspective, like if I tried to explain to you exactly what it felt like going through Marine Corps boot camp in San Diego, there is just no way I could clearly articulate it to the point that you'd feel like you'd been there and you'd done that. I have that perspective because I lived through it. And unless you'd lived through it, you wouldn't have the exact same perspective. And so that's true for every human, and everyone I interact with comes in and behaves in a certain way based on their unique perspective. And I know when I'm engaging with someone in a conversation that it's impossible for me to even know what their perspective is because people come from so many different backgrounds. But it's helped me understand that I'm not always the smartest guy in the room, and there's always something I can learn. And when I can sit and listen to other people's perspectives, a lot of the time I can expand my own perspective. So perspective determines behavior. Um, one of another major value point for me is this is a long-term programming process for me, programming my mind and the mindset. So, what I'm focused on here with you this evening is the mindset of a millionaire, because millionaires think differently than 99% of the population. Millionaires train their minds to think and react in a certain way. And one of those ways for me has been always focused on finding the silver linings. So, in the fog of war and chaos and things going sideways and losing money and the economy's tanking and we're having rioting in the streets and we have political unrest and there's all of this uncertainty, if I can wake up in the morning, and I'll do this several times during the day, and find silver linings in the circumstances, hey, at least I'm alive, I'm not dead. Everyone can start with that one. Hey, at least I'm free. I'm not in prison. I'm in my own house. I have autonomy to do what I choose to do today. Hey, I have a healthy, strong body. It responds to my training. I could have issues that would keep me from doing the things that I love doing. And you can test me on this one. It doesn't matter what's happening in my world. I can automatically find a silver lining in every single circumstance. And I challenge you to try that yourself, because if you can focus on finding the silver linings and finding gratitude for the silver linings, you can be completely broke. You can be homeless. You can be borrowing a vehicle from a family member. You can be living in a house that has the gas and the power shut off. And I would know about all of that. And I would tell you the same thing, because it's part of what worked for me in coming out of serious circumstances, serious economic crisis. One of my other driving principles is dollars follow value. And they say money's the root of all evil, or to be technically, accurate to the Bible, the love of money is the root of all evil. And I disagree with all of that. I think that the lack of money is the root of all evil, because in my lowest, darkest times and not having money, not being able to provide for my wife and my children and other people that depend on me for sustenance and, doing basic things, buying you a birthday present, buying Christmas presents, having dance lessons, being able to go on a vacation for the summer, just things that most people take for granted. Not being able to do these things. And dollars follow value for me means that I can't focus on money. I won't focus on money being my primary objective. When I'm starting a business, and if you're starting a business and you can ask yourself, what is my primary objective with this business? If it's to make money, you're already doomed and that business will fail. Business is a byproduct, or money is the byproduct. Having money is great, and we live in a world that's controlled by money. And if you don't have money, you can't do things for the most part. But the focus needs to shift to creating value. And that's another thing I got very good at, is how do I create value with my skills and my knowledge and my personality and my tenacity and things that God's blessed me with, without having money to contribute to a deal or a project or an idea. And as that evolved over 20 years, it became cemented into my mind as reality that the more value I create in the marketplace, the more the dollars flow to that. So I go out and I look at a new business and evaluate a new deal, and I am evaluating how much value creation, and I can measure my value creation, and I can see what the market wants. And if I'm providing that, then I'll go for it. So dollars follow value. Um, I'm going to make a little shameless plug against real estate agents, and I can do it because my wife's a real estate agent. But this is a really common field, unfortunately, where folks are confused about the dollars follow money proposition. Real estate agents make commissions, and these commissions become a driving force for them. And when a real estate, and I've had experiences with all types. I've had really great real estate agents and really bad ones. The really great real estate agent wants to make sure I'm getting exactly the property I'm looking for. I'm getting the price that fits my budget. I'm getting the features in the property that are important to me. I'm getting the terms that will accommodate me actually successfully making the deal happen. They're not focusing on getting paid that commission. On the flip side of it, when a real estate agent is really obsessed about their commission, they don't care if I get the terms I need or the house I really want or the land I'm really looking for. They just want to get paid. And so they're pushing, and there's pressure, and they subconsciously don't even realize they're pressuring me as their client to do something that's not in my best interest so they can get paid. So that's where dollars follow value really, there's a good analogy. Dollars follow value also for me translates into putting relationships and value in front of the money instead of putting money in front of people. If I have a choice, I'm always going to put my relationship with you first, and the money will settle itself. Another major driving principle is whatever it takes mode. So I see a lot of deals, and people bring me projects and ideas almost every day. And I spend a lot of time kind of, looking at the pitches, looking at these ideas and analyzing what I think I could execute on successfully. And once I get to that position where I've decided, okay, I like the deal or the project or the idea, and we're going to do this, then I go into whatever it takes mode. And once we go into whatever it takes mode, it means whatever it takes. Short of breaking the law, I'm going to do everything that I can possibly do to make sure that deal gets closed. And this kind of bleeds into one of my favorite books called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babbitt, both former Navy SEALs, whom I have mad respect for, and I call them mentors and heroes. If you haven't read Extreme Ownership, you should read it. But extreme ownership really boils down to not blaming other people for your failures. And it boils down to taking ownership for every single circumstance that I experience. And if you really try hard, you can take any experience from your day and you can trace it back to your own accountability. This also requires a lot of mental training to really focus in on, how am I accountable for this outcome? This guy is the guy that made the mistake on the job, or that gal is the one who screwed up at the title company, or whatever, whatever it is for you. We encounter problems every single day, and a good leader is one who's going to look at a title transaction, for example, that fails because, the title insurance wasn't issued, for example. Well, was I clear going into that transaction that I needed to request this, this, and this, and this? And if I didn't, then that's my fault. I'm not blaming that agent for not having everything in order for the deal to close. And there's a hundred ways we can apply this. This applies into our own family relationships. If I'm having an argument with my wife or one of my kids, and I can step back and say, okay, well, my daughter wasn't supposed to be out this late tonight, but was I clear enough about my expectation? Did I actually say to her, this is my expectation, this is the time that you need to be home, before she was out later than I expected? And if I didn't clearly make it known what I'm needing from her, then it's impossible for me to be sitting and blaming her and punishing her for being out too late or for breaking this or that or this other unspoken rule that's one of my expectations that I may have not made clear. And this whatever it takes mode and this extreme ownership, you're probably already surmising here, focuses heavily on communication. I can resolve so many problems and so many crises um, preemptively with clear communication. When I'm communicating with my development team or my construction professionals or my real estate agents, making sure that I'm as articulate and clear as I possibly can be avoids so many problems. And it's tempting. There's so many instances that are tempting for me to have an expectation and hope that the team shares that expectation or that standard. And I tend to want to let them go and do what they're going to do and see if they can meet that standard or meet the expectation without me feeling like I'm dictating to them all the time. So there's a temptation there to kind of, and it's important to have everyone take ownership in their own roles, but communicating expectations is a big, big piece of that. One of my final thoughts is an analogy that is kind of an epiphany that, I've just come up with in the last few years. Seems to apply to so many circumstances in the big picture of the journey of my life and in the day to day. And it's what I call the two paths. And many of you have seen the movie Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey, and I'm going to borrow a little bit of satire from that movie on this two paths notion that's been an epiphany for me. And so what I do is I recognize that anytime I'm faced with a situation, it could be a life-changing business deal. If I take the path over on the left that has certainty, the guarantees of safety, and I know what to expect over there on that path, I can typically see the end of that road and I know where it ends, and I'm guaranteed to not get what I want because I've already been down that road and I've already experienced that. So that path of having guarantees and security, now this is very important if you think you want to be an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur means there are rarely guarantees and almost never certainty. And it's training your mind and your emotions and your heart to be able to deal with the fear and the anxiety and the pressure that come without certainty and without guarantees. So on this path over here, I have these guarantees, and it could be a secure job because I know I have a mortgage and I know I have a car payment, but that job provides for that. This other path over here, this is a much less traveled path. There's no guarantees. In fact, I can't even see where the path leads. But what's enticing for this path to me is there's a chance if I go down it, I might get something more than I could imagine. I might accomplish something bigger than I've ever dreamed of. And so I ask myself 100 times a day, would I rather take a guarantee and be secure, or would I rather have a chance at greatness? And there's so many cliches around this. I'd rather aim for the stars and miss than never, aim at all. If you don't, take the shot in basketball, you'll never make it. That's the kind of the analogy. Jim Carrey, he's talking to his friend in Dumb and Dumber, and he's really hoping to date this gal, and she is absolutely not having it. She does not want to date him, and he's relentless. And there's a scene where, they go back and forth, and he gets her to admit that he asks her if on a scale of 1 to 1,000,000, what's my chances? And she says, probably like 1 in 1,000,000. And rather than seeing that empty glass, he says, so you're saying there's a chance. That is really, as funny as that is what an entrepreneur has to do. An entrepreneur's got to look at that 1 in 1,000,000 chance and say, but there's a chance. So that's what I'm going to choose. That's what I'm doing. Because if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So it's always about taking a chance, and taking the risks and making something great. Because if we don't do that, then we're selling ourselves short of our highest human potential. My major One of my major goals in life is just expansion. I'm committed to expanding myself a percentage or two at a time constantly, whether it's in my body, whether it's in my businesses, my family relationships, my relationship with God. I'm always about expanding by fractions of a percent constantly. So, guys, that sums it up. That is right around the amount of time that Dallin has allotted me. I wish I could spend an hour or two with you because there's so much more to share. But hopefully you've gotten some value out of these few bullet points that I've shared tonight. And I appreciate your time.